The worst discard the narcissist ever faced, and how you caused it. When you're dealing with a narcissist, the worst thing you can do is pull away from them emotionally. Narcissists are used to controlling and manipulating those around them, especially their partners. But when they face a discard that they didn't anticipate, especially from someone they thought was emotionally attached, that's when things get intense. In this video, we're going to explore the worst discard a narcissist ever faced, and how you, without even knowing it, caused it. The first thing narcissists fear more than anything is abandonment. It's not just about losing a partner, it's about losing control. They need constant validation and admiration, and when that stops, their entire sense of self-worth comes crashing down. So when you stopped feeding their ego, you set off a chain reaction that led to one of the worst experiences a narcissist can face, being discarded without warning. Narcissists thrive on attention and admiration. They feed off it like oxygen. When you stop giving them the attention they crave, it's like cutting off their lifeline. They start to panic, and this panic can trigger some of their worst behaviors. They may start to play mind games, try to manipulate you back into their control, or even discard you themselves in a fit of rage or rejection. The worst discard a narcissist faces happens when their partner finally sees through their facade. They can no longer maintain the illusion of perfection, and this realization hits them hard. The emotional high they once experienced from controlling you now becomes a devastating low. You, without even knowing it, caused this by simply seeing them for who they truly are and refusing to play along. When a narcissist is discarded in this way, they don't just lose their partner, they lose their sense of self. Narcissists rely on others to validate their existence. When you stop participating in this cycle, they feel invisible, worthless, and powerless. The worst discard isn't just emotional, it's an existential crisis for them, and that's something they can't easily recover from. The discard that hits a narcissist hardest is one that's not even dramatic. It's the silent one. When you simply stop engaging with them, stop fighting for their affection, and stop playing their games, they don't know how to handle it. There's no dramatic confrontation, no closure, just a slow, steady fading away. This type of discard is particularly devastating because it forces them to confront their lack of control. Narcissists are used to being the ones who pull the strings, making their partner feel small or unworthy. But when you emotionally detach and stop chasing their approval, you disrupt the power dynamic. The narcissist no longer feels like the one with control, and that loss is more painful than any breakup or argument they've ever had. It's a profound, unexpected loss that shakes them to their core. For narcissists, the idea of someone walking away without a fight is terrifying. They expect their partner to beg, plead, or at least try to salvage the relationship. But when you choose to walk away with dignity and self-respect, it forces them to face their worst fear, that they are no longer important to you. You've taken away their power, and they don't know how to respond. The narcissist response to being discarded is often extreme. They may lash out, accuse you of betrayal, or even try to smear your reputation. This is all part of their panic response. In their mind, if they can't control you, they must make sure you don't control the narrative. By discarding them, you've shattered their illusion of power, and they will do whatever they can to regain some sense of control. When you cause a narcissist's worst discard, you are doing more than just leaving the relationship. You are forcing them to confront their own inadequacies. They might try to convince themselves that they're better off without you, but deep down, they know you were the one person who made them feel significant. The narcissist's worst discard is often marked by an intense period of self-doubt and loneliness. The moment a narcissist realizes they've been discarded without a fight is a blow to their ego. They've spent so much time manipulating and controlling others that they believe they are irreplaceable. When you walk away without begging for their attention, it destroys their carefully constructed self-image. They can't fathom that someone would willingly choose to leave them behind. Narcissists will often go to great lengths to prevent being discarded. They will gaslight, manipulate, and charm their way back into your life. But when you hold your ground and refuse to re-engage with them, it triggers an emotional breakdown. Their sense of control is shattered, and they struggle to regain their footing in a world where their influence no longer reigns. The narcissist's worst fear is being seen as weak or vulnerable. And when they are discarded, that's exactly how they feel. The loss of their partner is not just a rejection of the relationship, it's a rejection of them as a person. This creates an emotional void that they are ill-equipped to handle. Narcissists thrive on the admiration and control they get from others, and when that's stripped away, they are left with nothing but emptiness. One of the worst aspects of a narcissist discard experience is the self-loathing that follows. They may try to convince themselves that they are better off without you, but deep down, they are crushed. The silent treatment they give you during the discard is often a reflection of the internal battle they are facing. They can't understand why you left, and they can't reconcile their need for control with the reality of your departure. The narcissist's worst discard can sometimes lead to an obsessive need for revenge. After the initial shock of abandonment wears off, they may start plotting ways to regain control over you. This can include tactics like smear campaigns, manipulating mutual friends, or trying to win back your affection through dramatic gestures. All of this is done to prove that they still have power over you, even if they no longer have control in the relationship. What makes this discard so painful for narcissists is that it's the ultimate rejection of their core need, validation. When they lose their partner, they lose the one person who was supposed to confirm their worth. They often experience a deep sense of emptiness and will struggle to fill that void with anything that can mimic the sense of importance they once had. Narcissists are master manipulators, but they often underestimate how deeply a partner's emotional withdrawal can affect them. When you stop feeding their need for attention and admiration, they are forced to face themselves in a way they never have before. This self-awareness can be an incredibly painful experience for a narcissist, as it forces them to confront their inner void and feelings of inadequacy. In some cases, the narcissist's worst discard results in a public meltdown. They may try to save face by putting on a brave front, but when no one is looking, they will often spiral into despair. The realization that they are no longer in control of the narrative is a blow to their fragile ego. They may lash out in private, trying to regain control in any way they can. The narcissist's worst discard is often followed by a period of self-reflection, but not in a healthy way. They don't ask themselves why the relationship ended or what they could have done differently. Instead, they focus on how they were wronged and how they can manipulate the situation to come out on top. Their ability to self-reflect is clouded by their need to preserve their image and power. Sometimes, narcissists will try to discard their partner first, hoping to maintain control over the situation. They might act cold and distant, or pretend they've moved on. But when their partner doesn't react the way they expect, when they don't chase after them, it's a devastating blow. The narcissist finds themselves on the receiving end of rejection for the first time, and it shakes them to their core. The most profound impact of a narcissist's worst discard is the loss of control. They are used to being the one who calls the shots, manipulates the situation, and dictates the terms of the relationship. But when you choose to walk away without looking back, they are left powerless. The narcissist cannot fathom that you no longer need or want them, and it forces them to confront their true self, someone incapable of forming authentic connections. After a narcissist is discarded, they may try to convince themselves that they are better off without you. They might tell themselves that you were weak or that they were justified in their behavior. But deep down, they know that the discard was a wake-up call. They've lost something they can't easily replace, and they will go to great lengths to mask the pain they feel inside. Narcissists often cope with being discarded by attempting to regain control of their image. They may create a narrative where they are the victim, painting themselves as the one who was wronged. This is part of their defense mechanism. They want to avoid the reality of their own vulnerability and self-doubt. One of the most confusing aspects of being discarded by a narcissist is the lack of closure. Narcissists don't tend to offer explanations or apologize for their behavior. They may simply disappear or act as if everything is fine. This lack of closure leaves the partner questioning what went wrong and why things ended, which is exactly what the narcissist wants. It keeps their partner emotionally invested while they move on. Narcissists can become obsessed with the idea of winning back their partner after being discarded. They may use charm, manipulation, or even guilt to try and reel you back in, But the truth is, this isn't about love, it's about control. They want to prove to themselves that they still have power over you even after the discard. The narcissist's need for validation after a discard is intense. They may reach out to mutual friends or acquaintances, trying to paint themselves as the one who has been wronged. This is all part of their strategy to maintain their image and control the narrative. They need others to believe that they were the victim, not the perpetrator. The worst discard a narcissist faces often involves the loss of their own sense of identity. They define themselves by their ability to manipulate and control others, and when you take that away, they are left with nothing. This forces them to confront their deep insecurities, which can be an incredibly painful experience. Narcissists might act out in dramatic ways after being discarded, hoping to regain some sense of control. They may try to provoke jealousy in their ex-partner or make them feel guilty. This behavior is a last-ditch effort to maintain relevance in their partner's life. The more attention they get, the more they can soothe their ego. Sometimes, narcissists will attempt to get revenge after a discard. They might try to ruin your reputation or spread lies about you to mutual friends. This is a way for them to regain control over the situation and feel like they are still in charge, even though they've lost their hold on you. The narcissist's worst discard can lead to a period of deep introspection, though not the kind that leads to growth. Instead of reflecting on their behavior, they will focus on the fact that they lost control. They might tell themselves that they were justified in their actions, but deep down, they know that losing control over someone else's life is a failure. Narcissists' worst discard can also trigger feelings of loneliness and isolation. Once they lose their source of validation, they may struggle to fill the emotional void left behind, but they are often too proud to admit this, and instead, they will try to convince themselves that they are better off without their partner, even if that's not the truth. For a narcissist, losing a partner can feel like the ultimate defeat. They might try to convince themselves that they never needed you in the first place, but the reality is that the discard has shaken their sense of self. They are no longer the ones in control, and that loss of power is something they may never fully recover from. After being discarded, narcissists will often bounce back quickly using charm and manipulation to regain attention from new sources. But this doesn't mean they've moved on. It means they're trying to fill the hole left by the loss. They can never truly heal because they can never admit their own vulnerability. When a narcissist is discarded, their reaction can be swift and extreme. They may try to convince others that the relationship was never meaningful or that you were the problem. This is a defense mechanism, a way for them to protect their fragile ego and avoid dealing with the pain of losing control. Ultimately, the worst discard a narcissist faces is not the end of the relationship. It's the end of their power. They can't handle the thought that they are no longer the center of someone's life. This fear of losing control over their partner is what drives them to act out in destructive ways after the discard. Narcissists can be persistent in trying to reclaim control after a discard, even if it means using guilt to manipulate their ex-partner. They will often send messages or attempt to rekindle the relationship, not out of love, but to prove they still have the power to affect you. For them, the worst discard is not just emotional, it's a direct challenge to their authority and worth. One of the most destructive things a narcissist can do after being discarded is try to paint you as the villain. They'll twist the narrative to fit their needs, often spreading rumors or false accusations to ensure that their image isn't tarnished. The worst discard for them isn't just about losing a partner, it's about losing their reputation and control over how others perceive them. The narcissist's worst discard is often coupled with an overwhelming sense of loneliness. They've lost not just a partner but a source of constant admiration. They may feel this loss in private, but their pride prevents them from admitting it. They are left to wrestle with feelings of emptiness, which they are ill-equipped to handle. Narcissists are experts at playing the victim. After being discarded, they may adopt this role in an attempt to garner sympathy from others. They want to appear as though they were the ones who were wronged, and by doing so, they hope to regain some semblance of control over the situation and the narrative. Sometimes, a narcissist will attempt to discard their partner first in an effort to avoid the pain of rejection. This preemptive strike is an attempt to keep their control intact, but when the discard backfires, When the partner leaves them instead, it shatters the narcissist's illusion of power. The realization that they didn't initiate the separation stings deeply. After a narcissist's worst discard, they may engage in a period of self-loathing, though they'll rarely admit it. They may try to convince themselves that they're better off without their ex-partner, but deep down they know the discard has created a gaping emotional void. Narcissists rarely face the truth about their own vulnerability, but the sting of rejection can still cut deep. Narcissists fear being alone more than anything. When they face a discard, especially one they didn't see coming, it leaves them feeling exposed and powerless. They may try to fill this void with other relationships or superficial sources of validation, but these efforts are often temporary. The truth is, they can't truly heal because they never allow themselves to acknowledge their emotional wounds. The worst discard for a narcissist is one that exposes their fragility. After all, they are built on a foundation of grandiosity and self-delusion. When their partner leaves, it's a direct blow to their inflated sense of self. They can no longer maintain the illusion of being all-powerful, and that reality is something they are unwilling to face. Sometimes, narcissists will attempt to replace their ex-partner with someone new to prove they are not affected by the discard. However, this new relationship is often an empty attempt to fill the emotional gap left by the person who walked away. The narcissist may try to convince themselves that they've moved on, but deep down, they are still reeling from the loss. Narcissists struggle to accept that they can't always control the outcome of their relationships. When they face a discard, it challenges their view of themselves as being irresistibly powerful and desirable. They may go through a period of denial, refusing to acknowledge that they were the cause of the relationship's demise. In their minds, narcissists are always the ones who should be in control. So when the discard happens on their partner's terms, it feels like a betrayal. They may try to justify the end of the relationship by blaming external factors, but the truth is, they can't handle the realization that their partner chose to leave on their own, without being manipulated back into the relationship. Narcissists are incredibly proud, and the thought of being discarded is something they can't easily process. After a discard, they might resort to a campaign of revenge or smear tactics to regain control over the situation. Their need to reassert power often leads to destructive actions that hurt not just their ex-partner, but themselves as well. The worst discard is not necessarily about the end of the relationship. It's about losing the ability to manipulate the situation. Narcissists are used to creating chaos to control their partner's emotions. When the discard is clean and final without drama or engagement from the partner, it strips them of their ability to manipulate or control the narrative. This loss is crushing for them. Narcissists may take a long time to process the discard, often because they refuse to accept that they are not the center of their partner's world anymore. They may convince themselves that the breakup was just a temporary setback, and they'll try to regain their partner's attention at all costs, using the same manipulative tactics that worked before. In the end, the worst discard a narcissist can face is the one that causes them to confront the reality of their own behavior. Narcissists don't like self-reflection. They prefer to blame others for their shortcomings, but the discard forces them to confront the truth. They lost someone who saw through their manipulative tactics, and that realization is a blow to their ego that they may never fully recover from.